What are three major areas in which one can observe an erosion of U.S. state power since the 1970s?
Well, the three areas I would particularly note are financial regulation of the financial sector, banks, insurance companies, and so forth. Secondly, financial regulation, campaign contribution regulation, where the amount that can be given to candidates has increased quite significantly, and the identity of donors, the disclosure about who the donor is, has declined. The third area is civil rights, where the federal government has no longer engaged in enforcing integration across races in schools or in other areas such as housing.
What are some major reasons why this decline in U.S. federal activism has taken place?
There are a host of reasons. One is ideological. There's been a strong movement against the federal government amongst many leading politicians, particularly amongst Republicans. Standard rhetoric to reduce the federal government is very important. You saw this with Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush, and with the current president, Donald Trump. Secondly, globalization has eroded the fate of a lot of individual voters in the efficacy of federal intervention. They think taxes are not being used in a way which increases their interest, so they've decided to withdraw, and they tend to support candidates who are against the federal government. And a third area is judicial decisions, which have, for the most part, pushed back on federal activism in the United States.
How does Trump fit into this framework of the fall of the U.S. state?
Well, I think Trump is very important, but rather than being a catalyst of these trends, he's the product of them. That is, there's been an erosion of faith in the federal government over the last 2 or 3 decades, which has paved the way for a candidate such as Trump, who's skeptical about the role of government and prefers free markets and as little regulation as possible. He's followed in particular the Obama presidency, which had a very hard time getting its major healthcare reform through, and after that achievement and after financial regulation in 2010, didn't really enact any major pieces of legislation dealing with the federal government's role in society. So by the time of the election in 2016, there was genuine concern about federal intervention and federal activism.